All right. So this is regarding the layout of megacities in the 21st century. Does it make sense to base an entire state economy, an entire megacity region, off the location and consolidation of high-end office space? I don't think so. If you can fit 250,000 high-end office jobs in a city center, the only thing that does is draw everyone in, everyone in here. And it almost monopolizes an entire region's economy. If you're doing business, it has to be in a skyscraper, which all of the people involved in that business don't even live near there. They live out here in counties surrounding it, because the high-end office space and the megastructure increase taxes so much here and so much stress here that there ends up being a lot of violence and a lot of problems that you're going to find in a city. So if the people who demand this office space, who demand to be zoned for a megastructure in order to do business, don't even want to deal with the problems involved with that city and live outside the city and commute 2 hours in, how does that help? I mean, not how does it help, what is the sense of the megastructure when they could be doing that same job over here in a smaller office space? Especially in the 21st century, where being near someone isn't necessarily important enough to base an entire city structure around. So they're building 3 more of these fuckers, and they're just going up like, hotcakes. Do things go up like hotcakes? Going up like something that goes up quickly, that's for sure. And then expanding all the infrastructure on the way in after they're done. Does that make sense? Does that count? Does that one county ability to zone for megastructures, usually on account of just being there first or just being at the center of all this, should they allow the state government to basically pay via the federal highway funds to account for that and account for their increased office space and the increased people coming in? It's a very great argument. There's no ambiguity. I can speak clearly. Essentially, what I have here is County 1, County 2, County 3, County 4, County 5, and County 6. Now, counties deal with different levels of government than city or state. They deal generally with zoning, property taxes, distribution of property taxes, and approval of structures, or in the case of number 3 here, the rubber stamping of every single megastructure. So if number 3 decides, I am going to put as much space for every single person here who has a good job or makes $80,000 more a year plus a year, just to sit right here in the middle because that looks good on paper. County 4 now has all of number 3's poor people coming there once the property taxes kick in. County 2 now has 2+ hour commutes to work every single day. County 1 is dealing with sprawl. County 6 is dealing with sprawl. And County 5 is dealing with all the people who used to live there are dealing with, once again, sprawl and more investment, and which is great. Investment in this manner is great, but it's not, you can't plan for constant growth, and you can't allow one industry or one county to court industry by making everyone around suffer. So what is reasonable solution to this? A reasonable solution would be to redraw the county line. This should be one county. No question about it. This should be one county. The counties were drawn between 1860 and 1920. There was obvious differences in communication, ease of travel. They were generally population centers. The county. How was the county drawn in the first place? To account for travel and population centers, and the ease and ability of the sheriff and the county officials to do their job. Well, if all this has changed and all of that has changed, then why hasn't the county line? Because right now what we have is just obvious collusion between the county and the city government to basically fuck over the rest of the counties. Not only fuck over the rest of the counties, but in the same vein that County 4 could put a whole bunch of hog slaughtering plants right here, right next to a residential area. You could just throw a whole bunch of bring in 6 tractor trailers of screaming hogs in an hour and just start cutting those fuckers up. But we don't generally allow that. The skyscraper is basically the exact same situation as the 1910, 1850, more like 1890, 1910, between then, when America had a bunch of problems with smog in downtown big city areas and industrial zoning. So now we have, instead of industrial zoning, we have office space zoning that is accounting for so much stress and so much growth that County 3 can just say, hey, I don't really have any problems anymore because I have a bunch of money. Now your problems are County 2s. Now the problems are County 4s. Now the problems are County 6. Which is a racket, because then they turn around and tell the state government, well, if you want this money and if you want this high-end office space, if you want us to be paying all these taxes that help you, then you need to fucking call the feds. They need to get their asses over here and get us some fucking money, because now everybody in County 3 is getting paid, except for anyone who was just at their cost of living. They're all fucked. And now they're going to number 4, and they're going to number 6, and they're going to number 2. All number 2 residents are going to County 1. Now County 4s are going to County 5, just because County 3 wanted to make money and consolidate and monopolize a region's industry. All I'm saying is, community planning takes actual planning, and it takes actual thought. So why are we doing things just like we did in 1870, 1880? Build big, build all these structures. The city of Chicago and the city of New York and New York City were basically in a one-upping contest for 40 years to draw more industry to them. The skyscrapers and that build bigger, Sears Tower and Empire State Building, those have nothing to do with the actual building and have everything to do with wow, look at all this they can accomplish. They have elevators. How amazing. I would love to do business in a city with elevators. And that was the thought process. In the same vein, a Mediterranean city-state, 2,500 years ago, is going to build epic structures like the Colossus of Rhodes, the pyramids. The pyramids aren't a tomb. The pyramids are a draw. They're a draw for merchants now, just like they're a draw for industry now. They were a draw for industry then. So whether or not the Hanging Gardens of Babylon or the pyramids or anything, they have nothing to do with the religious purposes. Considering back in the day, it have everything to do with, booyah, look at what we can bring in. If you build this for me, I'm going to have more people coming here to do business with your industries and with our merchants, and your products are going to get sold because people are coming. And that is what a skyscraper is. So basically, we're relying on 1890 to plan a city based on based on ridiculous city-state city-state bullshit. If a bunch of architects got together in 1890 and decided the Chicago School of Thought or the New York City School of Thought should be enough to base an entire industry on, or an entire state's economy on, well, maybe it's time we kind of tone that down and allowed people in megacities just to live. Maybe industry is industry, and growth does not necessarily have to always compound. And it's better to have one person whose life is fairly simple. You better have a city full of people with simple lives, doing their simple things, their simple industries, because they're going to come up with things, than a system based around a megastructure where you have to do business there, because that does not help the overall community. It ends up with this round robin, U-Haul fucking generation after U-Haul generation, going all over the fucking, well, that's fucked. Time to go to Detroit, No one's ever said that. Basically, the whole country is kind of moving in a Chicago direction, which is the city center is the gateway to all Midwestern business. Well, is that working for Chicago? How's that working for Chicago? Because it seems like they have gang violence, their inability to get their schools together, and just overall corruption has placed the city of Chicago is zoned more so for high-end office structure and the business lunch than it is for the actual community, which leaves all the surrounding counties with all those people that Chicago boasts live surrounding Chicago. They don't live in Cook County. So now you have Cook County colluding with the city of Chicago, and it's the same thing going on in Denver. The city of Denver is colluding with the county of Denver. And so Arapahoe gets fucked. Weld gets fucked. Everyone, even Deer Trail, just put in what? 403? More like 75 houses. Deer Trail, Jesus. That's like a 50%, population increase. My God. That's a lot way out in Deer Trail. Well, an hour and a half into the Great Plains. I cut my finger off in Deer Trail. It was big news. Bigger than shooting down drones. Big news. Now, all I'm saying is, sometimes you need to stop, look around, and not only focus, but consider, is something that happened in 1880 something that should be happening in 2020? Because realistically, real world application of this shows that all of the people these cities are drawing to them don't live in the jurisdiction of the city and county that is drawing them there. They live outside of it, and they commute. And so the commute adds extra stress, and the commute adds extra stress not only to their lives, but the lives of the actual city and county residents, because now their cost of living is increased. And I guess it just makes more sense. It just makes more sense for a megacity to be laid out like this, where instead of everyone coming here, you have some people coming here, some people going there, some people 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 there. An easier, less stressful situation. And if you were to draw out the county this way, then the county could say, well, look at here. We're not going to build this new megastructure and office space and all that shit because we have, a bunch of unused office space here, which would be good for that community. So why don't you go there? And I'm not saying all these big old soup people shouldn't be in the middle. But if you were to spread out, if you were to enlarge the county, then yes, they could be there, but you could also do zoning initiatives, which basically say, hey, about 50% of your your employees cannot commute to the city center a week. So these companies would be forced, not forced, but generally persuaded, to use different office space for their lower level employees. And that way, you have even more space here for all these other companies that were here initially that you haven't been courting. You got Bill's fucking Appliance Warehouse. Maybe he wants an office there. But if you were to just ease the stress and focus on the city as a whole, and that's a problem. Is people say city and they think bright lights and tall buildings, and that's not what a city is. A city is a population center, a regional population center, and it has always been a regional population center. It doesn't matter if you live in the suburbs or if you live in the inner city or if you live in right downtown. You're still a member of that city just because they have different different names. You're still participating and you're still part of that community. So why don't you all act like it by redrawing the county line and having something some say in this? In the case of Chicago, Cook County dictates how everyone acts from Hammond, Indiana to southeast Wisconsin. And that's ridiculous. A county shouldn't have that kind of power over everybody. A city shouldn't have that kind of power. If you think about, checks and balances as they were laid out, and you were to think about the different layers of government we have, then 2 layers of government basically operating at the same scale is not efficient. And not only is it not efficient, that was not the intention of laying out a county versus a city. If a city was supposed to be able to do all this, then they would have never made the county. I mean, the county would have been rural people shit. It would have been, which it is kind of now, but in name only. Whereas in cities, the county fucking calls the shots for everybody. So if you think checks and balances, and let's say this is Denver, and we've got Denver, Golden, Castle Rock, Inglewood, Lakewood, Highlands Ranch, Parker, Aurora, DIA out here. We got Commerce City, Brighton. We got Westminster and whatever. Who cares? Thornton. That's up there. You guys are people too. Jeez, oh Pete's. Look at the world now. All right. Wow. I've totally forgotten where I was going. But if all these people had a say in the zoning that affects them, in the structure, and the permits that affect them, then it would create a much more relaxed atmosphere and a much more community-based atmosphere. Now, why do you have to increase I-25? Just because downtown Denver wants more money? And I-70 is a fucking shit show that's going to fall over. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to eminent domain every single house in that area. And then it's going to turn into the same thing that happened to Baker, the same thing that happened to Wash Park and Highlands. It's just going to end up just being a bonanza of investment. But in the reality of the situation is that's not a bad thing. However, the people who were just living there they're part of the community. So why are they basically, thrown into the dogs? So, to recap, redrawing the county lines would be a very easy, not easy. I mean, I guess there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of power structures involved. However, in the 21st century, we need to really, really consider possibly that we should make some updates in the vein, or in the spirit of not getting rid of them, but making it more functional with our new population centers and with our ease of travel. So that's